The MCU is finally back. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Under the Pink Hat. I am your host, Siler, and today we're finally going to be discussing the long-awaited, much hyped up Spider-Man Brand New Day. Before we get into spoiler territory, in case you're wondering if this movie is awesome, let me just rip off that band-aid. It fucking rules. Now that that's out of the way, we will start getting into the spoiler territory. So if you don't turn around now, I don't know what to tell you, man. Just to get the cat out of the bag so we can move on, I'm going to reveal who Sadie Sink is playing in this movie. She is Jean Grey, as if there was any other surprise about who she was going to play in this movie. She is our first look at the new X-Men and mutants in general in the MCU. I know they briefly mentioned that Miss Marvel was a mutant in her show, but they never came back to it or said anything else about it, so I'm just gonna skirt past it. I'll dive more into a little bit about Jean and what her motivation is later, but I just wanted to rip that band-aid off so we can all just move on and discuss the rest of the movie. So we can all chill. We can chill. This is easily my favorite Spidey film today, and this includes all of the other Spider-Man that came before Tom Holland. This movie was just absolutely wonderful to watch. Every little thing about this movie feels like it has purpose, even the goofy ass stuff that happens in it. Every scene is pushing the movie in the direction it needs to go, which is something I think that I felt that Marvel hasn't been doing in recent years, which I think we can all kind of attest to, that they're just kind of throwing a bunch of things at the wall in a movie and hoping that something lands. But not here. You can tell just how much care and time they took to solidify this script and story long before they ever made it to filming. Let's start with the basics. We'll go over the premise of the movie and the opening, and then we'll kind of go over everything as we progress naturally, as one does. So 4 years after No Way Home, Peter Parker lives alone after Doctor Strange's spell erased everyone's memory of him. While balancing loneliness and life as Spider-Man, he starts to develop strange new powers, prompting him to seek out Bruce Banner on advice on how to control what's going on inside of him. A series of invisible attacks leads Peter to Jean Grey, a young telepath trying to save her sister from damage control. As Jean's powers spiral out of control, Peter teams up with Yelena, Punisher, and Bruce Banner to stop her. Rather than killing Jean, Peter helps her stabilize her powers, ending the conflict peacefully. Although Peter saves the city, Strange's spell still remains. MJ and Ned experience faint flashes of remembering Peter, hinting that the spell may be weakening. Even in the opening sequence, we just see how much he has dived into only being Spider-Man and not Peter Parker. We see him take villains down like Scorpion, The Hand, and even Tombstone. Tombstone is in this like 10 seconds in this whole movie, but it's so funny they included him, but I am not mad about it. I like that the opening isn't just about setting up the movie of what's coming, because they do that with Scorpion and The Hand. Both of those, they come back, but seeing just Tombstone in there randomly just thrown in there was really awesome. And it's, I do hope that he comes back, because Marvin Jones III is a great actor and he is hella menacing, and I would love to see him more as Tombstone in the MCU. I'm sure that they will. I'm sure that isn't just a complete throwaway and nod to another character. I'm sure he'll come back at some point, but it was cool to see him, and I definitely am excited for more from him. Immediately out of the gate, we get right to the plot. Like, they don't waste any time. We get word that a fucking tank has been stolen and is heading towards the Department of Damage Control. Spidey, of course, starts to chase after it and stop it, which is where we run into my man Frank Castle. They wasted no time bringing Frank into this movie. Him and Spider-Man already know each other and have met. We find out pretty quickly on that when they start talking. Let me tell you, these two have some of the best on-screen chemistry we've seen in the MCU, in my own opinion. It's probably due to their friendship in real life, but seeing them together in this universe is so amazing. I know I was definitely iffy about them including the Punisher in a non-rated R film, and that he would lose the things that make him who he is and what his journey has been, but somehow they managed to make it work. He still cusses a lot, even if he can't say fuck or like brutally murder people in extremely gory situations. But it is the Frank Castle that we know, that we've seen grow from Daredevil, his own show, and even the One Last Kill. He's our Frank, man. I know a lot of people are complaining about this, but I think this is growth for Frank too. Peter probably reminds him of his son that he lost, and he gets to let down his tough guy act with him a little bit and just be a normal guy, just be Frank Castle. Well, I guess what the version of normal for him would be. He'll never be a normal guy, but I mean, as close to it as Frank Castle can get now. They have some seriously hilarious moments together in this. There's a recurring bit which talks about Spider-Man saving Frank on Coney Island, and it keeps causing them to argue like it's a sitcom. Like seeing these polar opposite characters fight like an old married couple is just something to behold. Even when they fight the Hulk later on in the movie, Frank is like, you go after the Hulk and I'll go after the real threat, or something along those lines. And Peter's just like, are you just saying this to get out of fighting the Hulk? And he just looks at him, he's just like, yeah. And it's just such a fun little moment. And also Frank having the balls to go toe to toe with the Hulk in itself is amazing. Anyways, right at the beginning, after the tank is stolen and it's driving through, this is where they discover that someone is controlling the operator of the tank, as well as other people throughout the scene, until they get away and break Scorpion out of prison. This leads Peter to start trying to find out who's responsible, where he ends up reaching out to none other than fan favorite and one of my favorites, Yelena. Their scenes in this are really funny too. The like comedic chemistry that Tom Holland and Florence Pugh have is just, it's so good, because like this movie contrast is like really serious heartfelt moments with like just the goofy ass comedy that we love to see. And I think that's important for Spider-Man too, because you know, he is like a happy character. I feel like he is one of the more brighter characters in the Marvel universe, but he also does have the dark side of being a superhero, and we get that very well in this movie, and it's awesome. It's really awesome. They only have 2 scenes in this movie, and the first of them is them meeting at like a bathhouse, and she forces him to take off his costume just so she knows that he's not carrying any weapons or anything, but he leaves his mask on, and just immediately she starts riffing on him and making fun of him, and like just they're just them sitting in that bath, like in like a hot spring or hot tub or whatever it is, just soaking in hot water and just talking about this. It's really funny, and he's just like, this is your office? Like, it's really funny. I did hear early on that a rumor that she was in this, but I don't believe anything until I see it in Marvel these days. From here, Spider-Man keeps trying to find the person responsible, and this leads them to keep having these interactions where she's controlling somebody as either Scorpion or random people on the street, and it eventually leads Peter to be able to get a picture of her in the back of a car as she drives away, and he starts tracking her down through government databases. And this is when he does eventually learn who she is, which is Jean Grey. Like I said, I already told you this. I already told you this. We already knew. So why are you surprised when I say Jean Grey? And also, this just reminded me of something that people had said online, and I think this is very important to point out. Why would Spider-Man, right, a New Yorker, a proud New Yorker, you know, living in New York, order fucking pizza instead of getting that authentic New York pizza, which is like one of the things they're super famous for? It just, worst part of the movie, it doesn't hold up. All right, it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I digress. Sadie Sink was perfect casting, I think, for Jean, which I don't think anyone can really disagree with. She is a good actress even outside of this, like obviously on Stranger Things and Fear Street and everything. Like, she is a really good actress, and she gave a great performance as Jean Grey in this movie. The trailers kind of made her seem like she was like a major terrorist, which I guess she kind of is. As far as I know, she doesn't actually kill anyone with this, although one person is definitely a maybe. I feel like that like one person could be dead because they did get hit by a car, but they do make a comment at some point about her not having killed anybody. So I mean, it's up in the air, but it is what it is. We also get the return of MJ and Ned, who at first obviously had no idea who Peter is still, but as the movie progresses, they both end up finding out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. MJ finds the note that Peter had written but didn't read at the end of No Way Home, and in the coffee shop, since he held on to it all these years, she finds it and reads it and gets his name, that it's Peter Parker, and then he takes off the mask and that he realizes that they've met. But even with that, and that she knows, and you know, he says like, oh, you know, even after I still let you go, I still love you, blah blah blah. He, you know, she tells him like she doesn't love him because she doesn't even know him. But at the end of the movie, we do see her clutching the broken necklace that she got in Far From Home, which is when, you know, they first got together and did find out who he was, and smiling and kind of like reminiscing about it. So it seems like the memory is still in her head. It's just blocked by the spell, but maybe it's starting to leak out a bit. He also just like tells Ned at the very end. Ned knew his name was Peter because MJ blurted it out at one point when he was like jumping out the window to go find Jean and deal with her. And then at the very end, he sees him in a shop and introduces himself as Peter to him. And they do like their old secret handshake, just like by pure muscle memory. And then he kind of looks at him and he goes, Peter, you know, confirming he understands who Peter is, because very early on when we first see Ned come back, Peter is pretending to be someone else in their housewarming party, which we've seen in the trailers. And he says, you know, I want to just know who he is, just so I can shake his hand and thank him for saving us, you know, not to out him, just to thank him face to face. And so he gives him that moment at the end of the movie while also like realizing like, Peter? And so it kind of feels like he's starting to remember too, like the memories are starting to seep out. So it ends with the three amigos back together, and we love to see that. There's a lot of that happens in this, which you should absolutely experience for yourself. This was a great movie to see. I saw it on a big screen, and it was fucking epic. Even though the seats sucked in this theater and my back is fucking sore. But at the end, Frank ends up shooting Peter, who took a bullet for Jean to save her life because his spidey senses went off. Jean's power had evolved and gotten super strong, and she was holding people kind of frozen within like a mile of where they were. And so Frank tries to kill her with a sniper shot from a distance because he doesn't know what she's gonna do or what's happening or like how powerful she is. So I understand why Frank would want to be Frank. She returns the favor by possessing him, by possessing Peter to hold him and stop his bleeding and save his life until Frank gets him to the hospital where he can be treated. And then once she knows that he's okay, she leaves his body and lets him take back over. So she ended up saving his life, and even Frank was just like, I was wrong, like she's fine, she's okay, she made it out, like I was wrong about her. So even Frank knows like, okay, she was not the real threat. This leads to a very like heartfelt moment in the hospital between Frank and Peter. Frank is even crying because of what he did, of him shooting him, and he feels so terrible that he almost killed him, and it is very touching. Which is immediately followed by Pete making fun of Frank for crying, and Frank later on again gives him a distraction so he can leave the hospital without being noticed. And it's him in a window wearing the Spider-Man mask and gloves, just like waving at people and saying hi, and it's just it looks so funny. And then it goes to a shot of him actually inside the hospital, like behind him, he's like making noises while he's doing it, and it's just like it's a super fun throwaway moment. But I think it's very significant because it is out of character for the Punisher. But again, it's like his dad mode came into play when he was around Peter. He wants to protect him. He sees him as like a son figure. And, you know, we no longer had the Punisher. He was just Daddy Frank. Wait, scratch that. That's something completely different. Also, the fighting in this movie is peak. Peter learned a lot of skills since the last time we saw him, and he can absolutely throw down with like any skilled fighters, as he does against the Hand. It has like a very big vibe of the Insomniac Spider-Man games, for the style of how he's fighting, and just like the what's the word I'm trying to think of, like the fluidity of him attacking everybody and dealing with their attacks as well. It's awesome. And I know that they mentioned that they straight up just like referred to the game's 4 moves and put that in here. So I love that they went into that detail, because let's face it, like that's like just the best fighting I think in any Spider-Man game, and any Spider-Man game in general, throughout the entirety of Spider-Man games. Is just those games are just the best, and I'm glad that they took to that to use that for inspiration. And also the cinematography that goes on during these, especially these ending fight scenes, is just I'm dying, is just chef's kiss. The end where he fights a bunch of DDC officers and the Hand, who is controlled by Jean, who now work for the DDC, who are the real bad guys in this movie because they kidnapped and killed Jean's sister and wanted to experiment and use her as well. It's just an incredible sequence, and that is probably one of the best in all of the Spider-Man movies. One of the film's strongest themes to me is how Peter sees the different parts of himself reflected in the other heroes that are in this. Like the Punisher represents Peter's rage and his isolation, while Bruce / the Hulk embodies the fear and grief and like the inner struggle for control that we're seeing within Peter. Of, is he Peter? Is he Spider-Man? Like, which one is he? Because that's causing the imbalance in his DNA. And as the story progresses, both characters find peace that mirror Peter's own journey. Punisher begins to let down his emotional walls by opening up to Peter, while Banner embraces his emotions during their fight scene, and that's kind of how he comes to, and instead of fearing them, he embraces them, and that allows him to regain control of the Hulk during that final fight. And rather than becoming a force of like destruction, he chooses to show his empathy and his compassion, because he's about to kill Peter, and ends up helping Peter do what's right and lets himself fall, and he turns back into Bruce Banner. So nobody gets hurt, nobody dies, and yeah, Bruce ends up doing the right thing. Also, Hulk, huge in this movie. Like, size-wise, huge Hulk. The biggest I think we've ever seen him. Even Peter was just like, I didn't know you could get that big. And yeah, he looks good. It's fun to see the Hulk. I do like that they're kind of going back to where the Hulk and Bruce aren't merged into one, where it's like Smart Hulk. Because while I understand why they did that, I prefer like the at odds version of the Hulk, where it's, you know, the two are just always fighting for control and sometimes can work together. But I think that's a very important part of the Hulk, which is just lost when they were merged into one. So I'm glad they're kind of going back on that and getting back to form. The movie ends with Peter not being alone. Jean flees the city and is on a bus to who knows where, and it truly is a brand new day. But wait, there's more. In the post-credits scene, we are seeing so there's nobody actually shown in this post-credits post-credit scene. We do see that it's the spider tracker, that Spider-Man tracker that Ned invented, and it's saying like, oh, you know, trying to locate Peter, and then it keeps zooming out and out and out till you see Earth, and then it moves away from Earth and we see it in space, and it's like detected, and then it just ends with saying Spider-Man will return. So it doesn't say when he's gonna return, but based on, you know, the different universes blending together, is it our Spider-Man? Are they talking about our Spider-Man that's gonna return? Yeah, 100%. It's gonna be Tom Holland. But I mean, they didn't specifically say Peter Parker. They said Spider-Man. So it is possible that we do get one of the other Spider-Men to come back for Doomsday, which a lot of people are saying is going to happen, or at least for Secret Wars. But I mean, we don't know anything about this movie. Even Tom Holland has been like, I don't know anything about Secret Wars. I don't know, which is bullshit. I think Tom's getting better at holding things in because he didn't spoil this. I don't think he's like spoiled that much, but it's fun to riff on. Overall, this film is like a street level Spider-Man rather than facing the destruction of Earth kind of Spider-Man. Like it brings the scale down a bit, which I think works perfectly in its favor for this kind of story. And it also introduces Jean Grey and begins the MCU's X-Men storyline. So a lot happened in this movie, and we're back to form. We're back, man. Like as I said earlier, this is the best Spider-Man in my opinion. I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. Nothing seemed like throwaway. Everyone, even small characters and appearances, got to shine without taking the spotlight of Spider-Man and what his journey is. It wasn't filled with cameos just to have cameos. Like, they served a purpose, and I love that they did that. I saw this yesterday, and I'm still so excited about this movie. Like, I would 100% go and see it again right now. Let's hope they keep this up when Doomsday rolls around later this year, but dare I say it, the MCU might be back. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to follow me on YouTube and Spotify. No longer Amazon and Apple Podcasts because of shit I can't control. It's not there. It's only on Spotify. All right, just deal with it. All right, Spotify is better in my opinion. I don't know. Whatever. Just use YouTube if you can't use Spotify. Just on here, it's free. And we'll catch up soon, guys. Stay nerdy, my friends.